Hey everyone, it's Mikki here. You're listening to Wikipedia, and this week on the podcast I speak with Molly Hamill. She is a business energetics intuitive and mentor who helps female business owners turn inspiration into sustainable income. So Molly is part of my business group actually, and she specialises in working with women whose services are ahead of their time, paradigm shifting, often unseen, and not always easily explained by mainstream frameworks. So in this conversation, Molly and I explore energy healing and its impact on health, intuition and decision-making, as well as the interplay between masculine and feminine energy in life and business. This episode is a grounded, thoughtful discussion for anyone navigating the space between intuition, embodiment, and running a financially viable business. And whilst Molly is a business mentor, this conversation extends well beyond the applicability of energy healing for business and just talks as a whole about the field. So this is why I really wanted to chat to Molly about it, because I just find it absolutely fascinating, and I think you will too, albeit come with an open mind. So Molly Hamill is a business energetics intuitive and mentor who supports female business owners to transform their inner knowing into income without diluting the depth of their work. She's best known for working with women whose offerings sit outside the mainstream: energy healers, intuitive practitioners, coaches, and service providers whose work is often misunderstood, invisible, or difficult to articulate in conventional business language. After building a successful Reiki healing and coaching practice that allowed her to leave a senior corporate executive role, Molly experienced firsthand the tension many women feel between deep service and talking about money. While she knew her work was changing lives, learning how to communicate her offers, value, and pricing in a way that felt aligned, not performative or fear-based, became a turning point in her career. Today, Molly bridges intuition and strategy, helping women understand how energetic alignment, emotional intelligence, and balanced masculine-feminine dynamics underpin both impact and financial sustainability. Her work invites women to honour the unseen aspects of their gifts while building businesses that are grounded, ethical, and economically viable. So I have links as to where you can find Molly in the show notes, which is her website, mollyhamill.com, and also on Instagram, Molly Hamill. Before we crack on into the interview, I would like to remind you that the best way to support this podcast is to hit the subscribe button on your favourite podcast listening platform. That increases the visibility of Wikipedia in amongst the literally thousands of other podcasts out there, so more people get to hear from experts I have on the show, like my friend Molly Hamill. All right, team, enjoy this conversation. Yay. Molly, really great to have this opportunity to sit down and chat with you this morning. I appreciate your time, and I love the time that we spent a couple of weeks ago in your home city, San Diego. So thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat more with you.
But I just want to dive in and know, because I know that you had almost had like a life before the life you live now, and as sort of a go-getter in the corporate world. Mm-hmm. So can you tell me, Molly, like when you think about your corporate life, what did success look to you back then? Because I think this is like super interesting compared to sort of where you're at now.
Yeah, I mean, energetically we've just transitioned into like the Aquarian age, and we are in, literally the era of energy, and before we were in the era of the mind. And I think that was very much my corporate journey. Like when I was growing up, I had no idea what I wanted to be, and I didn't feel like the smartest person. And so my way of dealing with that was like to work the hardest. And that really served me, and I always was like good at reading people. We'll talk about the intuition thing. And so those two things helped me get really far in corporate at a young age. I was a VP of HR for a national healthcare company by the time I was in my early 30s. But it was like internal torture because it was like never feeling like enough, or like having to work to feel validated, so it's just kind of like being on a treadmill of worthiness.
Yeah. Now, you've just said that we were in the era of the mind versus the era of energy. Now, is this something which you're familiar with and you know all about? Is it just like you thinking about where you're at, or is actually this is just where collectively we are at right now?
Oh no, collectively that's where we're at. So we were in the Capricorn before, and Capricorn is very like, it was scientific rules. Working the hardest is the trophy, and all sorts of analytic and very rooted in the mind. And now actually we're moving into, I know people will laugh at, it's like the season of joy and a balance between masculine and feminine energy. And I don't mean like feminine as in like, dapping your mouth with a napkin, but I mean listening to your intuition, listening to your body when it needs rest and recovery, and understanding that's as important to your health as pushing yourself at the gym the next day. And so we're coming into an era of balance where it's, you don't get the trophy just for working the hardest for, maybe no reason, but like getting the results, but doing it in a way that's not burning out your system or leaving you depleted.
Okay, so, and this is exactly what I want to chat to you about, like in amongst all of the other things, because I am, I describe myself like I'm not a religious person, but by any stretch, I didn't really have any sort of religious background or education, I suppose, growing up. I would describe myself as more of a sort of spiritual person, I suppose. And I'm really interested in things that go beyond just sort of the here and now and us as, like living in this world, which is why I was so fascinated when we were chatting a couple of weeks and you were just giving me some insights into your framework and how you think about the world, which is obviously why we're sitting down and talking today. So where does this information come from? Like, because people like who might be listening to this, like you say, people will laugh at this. I don't think people will laugh. I think people will probably just be super interested to understand more about where this framing even comes from.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I am a channel, so I do like channel information from spirit. And that was when my channel opened, that was one of the first things that came through, was like that balance between the masculine and feminine. And then one of my mentors, Carissa Schumacher, she's a world-renowned psychic medium channel. She talks a lot about it too. So, being a channel, you're like, did I just make this stuff up? Like, is this real? You know what I mean? And then you hear someone who's like world renowned at it say the same thing. And you're like, oh my God, okay, it's real. This thing is real. And then now I think if you follow any other astrologers, you'll see like Pluto's moved into a new position and stuff like that. So you can kind of, if you get a couple of good astrologers that you follow, you can kind of understand this. And then, but, I think like a lot of it is also intuitive, and everyone's intuitive to a degree, right? And so I can't remember, Mikki, if we were at the table together, but we were in a small group at one point, and some of the women were saying, it's so much easier for me to work like later at night, even though I know it's not great for my circadian rhythm, or on a Saturday morning, even though that's not a work day. And I'm like, because we're all energy, and we are a collective consciousness. And so when we are working Friday at 2, we are collectively working, even though we're individually working on our own things. There's a collective of people. And so we're hooked into that energy of that collective. But if you think about like 9 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, there's not a lot of people working, doing the analysis work that might be happening at the same time. So we're all tapped into these various things, even though we're not used to thinking of it this way.
Yeah, super interesting. And Molly, I suppose to your point, when you were just saying that when your channel opened and you were wondering, God, am I even making this stuff up? Yet mentors also describe a similar experience. I'll just share that I have a good friend who said a very similar thing to me like 15 years ago. And if it wasn't for her talking about how she literally said, she says, I see people and I hear and I talk to people. And like, she is not someone who is, I don't know what, and another way to describe, she's not someone who's woo, I suppose, like in any other area of her life, she is not woo. And so because she was talking about it, I'm like, wow, had that not come from your mouth, I don't know that I would have believed it. And I think that this sort of opened my mind to the understanding that there is more than just us here on Earth. Like when you say your channel opened, I've such a 101 question, but what does that mean? And what was your experience? And how did you know, I suppose?
Well, there's two different types of channels. So there's what's known as like a conscious channel where it comes through your mind. And then there's what's known as full body channels. So like someone allows a spirit to come into their body and like take over. So I'm a conscious channel. And I think like I've always known that's kind of how part of my intuition works. Cause even in corporate, I'd say something like just random, not even thinking it. And then it would like happen and people would be like, how did you know that was going to happen? I'm like, I don't know. I just said it. I don't know, but, so I was going to these retreats in Sedona and, my mentor, Carissa was there. And so I think through that work I was doing, my channel opened, but it was so funny. Mikki, it was like, I was not expecting it. I had made an agreement with the universe though. And you can do this with spirit. Like you can make a contract with them of like how you want this to go. And I am a medium, but I have no interest in talking to dead people all day, just to be real. Like I want to talk to living people. So I kind of made an agreement with spirit like a long time ago that I don't want to do that. Stop sending these people through, but I will, like, if there's universal messages, like bring those through in my work. And so my daughter was, I think like a year old, and I was freshly back from Sedona, and I'm pushing her down the street, like very family oriented street. And I just start talking, like it just starts coming through me and I couldn't like not talk. And I don't know if anyone saw me or heard me, but when you're channeling, because the cadence of your voice is different. If you listen back, sometimes people will come through in different accents, like, or even languages that they don't even speak. So that's not my case. But it just literally opened. And I think my consciousness just got to a place where that was available. And now I mostly just do it in writing. So people, I don't know if you've heard of automatic writing, but you can like write a question and then just start going and then channel that way too.
Yeah. Molly, how old were you when you discovered that you actually had this different level of, is it consciousness? Is it like sort of openness? Because I can imagine that from the get-go when you sort of discovered it, it may have been, I don't know, like you may have been like, what the hell is going on? Like, because I don't know, unless you grew up in a family that was always really open, you're always talking about stuff like this.
No, not at all. I mean, my dad's like a fighting trial attorney from Boston, Massachusetts. Like that was not the environment I grew up in. My mom did say like I, was always playing with fairies in the backyard when I was really little. And most little kids are intuitive. Most kids will see grandparents who have passed, but it shuts down as we get them acclimated to our society structures. It kind of goes away. That the cord kind of closes. And I was never even open to this stuff. My mom would go to psychics and like try to talk to me about it, like whatever. I don't believe in any of that stuff. And, and then sometimes life happens and you don't have a choice. And so things happened in my life and I had 3 friends say, you should go see this like medium or healer or whatever. And I did. And that's kind of, I got trained in Reiki. And then when I was doing sessions on people, that's really when like a lot of my intuition opened up. I refer to it as like intuition, I guess, most commonly. And there's so many different types of it. Like you said, your friend talks to spirits that have passed. Some people hear things. Some people see things. Some people feel things, which is very common. And when I got trained in Reiki, the greatest gift for me was learning energy because I had anxiety problems my whole life. And all it really was that I could feel everyone else's energy. But when you're growing up, like nobody tells you that. So when I learned how to understand, is this my energy or somebody else's energy that I'm feeling? Once I had that ability, I could go out in public again and like not feel anxious. I didn't have to be on anxiety medication. I just could meditate and like clear people's energy off me. And it was like a whole new world opened up. And that's really when I became committed to doing that as a career, because in my late 20s, I was on sleeping medication. I was on anxiety medications, and I'm not judging anyone who are on those things, but I just felt like there has to be a better way. I'm in my late 20s and I'm already on all this medication, like kind of numbing myself here. And I thought, wow, like if I had known about this so many years ago, I could have saved myself so much anxiety and like going to doctors and stuff like that. So that just felt like the natural path for me.
Yeah, super interesting. And I hear you talk about energy, and of course we're going to dive into intuition and sort of what that means for you and maybe for other people. But what you describe is not unfamiliar, I'm sure, to a lot of people listening. Just that sense of the anxiety that you feel if you're around people who you don't gel with, or there's something off, or however you might want to describe it. Like, that seems like a very normal human experience, actually. Like, you're not always going to walk into a room and feel super comfortable and super confident. So is there a difference between what you're describing and I suppose what people are experiencing, or is it just on a different spectrum?
No, I think that's exactly it. Like, we all have auras, which are energy bodies that are 6 feet behind us, in front of us, and to each side. So it's like your aura walks into a room before you do. So that's why sometimes you just get a feeling about someone before they've even opened their mouth. And I remember even before I opened myself to all of this, in my corporate position, we were having turnover problems. I implemented a behavioral assessment in the hiring process. And I learned during that everyone takes in a certain amount of data that's needed to make a decision. But even the most data-driven person, 80% of those people are going to make a gut level decision. They're going to take in a certain amount of information and then they're going to go with their gut. And I think, like, that's how most people relate. Like, if you watch yourself with work or whatever else, you're going to make the gut level decision, even if it's like slightly contradictory to like what the black and white data is telling you.
Yeah, interesting. And like, because I think a lot of people probably question what they feel and question that instinct or that intuition or that gut feeling, like that's something that people understand all of the time, but we don't always trust ourselves, I guess.
Hell no. I mean, like, you didn't go to school there. People didn't teach you how to listen to the sensations in your body or like listen to your intuition. They taught us history and math and, everything else that was very much, of the mind. And I'm watching my daughter go through that now. She's 7 years old. It's like, that's they don't teach that stuff. I think they teach a little bit more emotional intelligence stuff in mindfulness classes, but we weren't taught that way. We were taught to trust the evidence and trust in what we can see. And this is all in the realm of the unseen, where there's no evidence. And honestly, one of the hardest things in trusting your intuition is that it often conflicts with your mind. Oftentimes that gut level feeling, like Mikki, you might feel it somewhere. People usually feel that either in their like abdomen area, their heart area, or sometimes their throat area. And like that can be giving you a very specific message, but our mind will often tell us something different because our mind can't see the evidence. So our mind's like, warning, warning, trying to keep you safe. This is not safe. I don't see what I need to see right now. I don't see the data. I don't see this. But that became a practice for me after my daughter was born. I was like, I cannot be in these cycles of burning out and then like recovering on the weekends because I want to be able to enjoy every second with her. And so I made a commitment one year to start listening to the sensations in my body and what they were telling me. And that led to an incredible amount of ease. But it was a struggle to do that because my mind would often tell me something different than what that sensation was telling me.
Was it around that time that you left your corporate position to sort of pursue this as a calling, Molly? Or did that come later?
No. So this is the other thing. It's so much harder to listen to your intuition when it comes to yourself. So I left corporate in 2015 and I had my daughter in 2019. But in 2015, for the 3 years after that, I'm doing full psychic readings on people from across the country that I've never met, seen, or anything else. And it's just all energy, right? But like, I didn't even trust it enough for myself. Like, I trusted it for everybody else, but to trust it for yourself is harder from what I experience in my own being, but then also with clients too.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I guess that, again, that's just something very human for a lot of us, like we seldom do we sort of trust us. It's why people come to, say, people like me, and they, they want to talk to me about their nutrition, their diet, their exercise, etc. Whereas they're almost wanting confirmation for what they already know. Is that a little bit of what that is?
Yes, absolutely. And like, intuition's a couple different things, but there's like a knowing that can happen, like the sensation in your body, like we talked about. And then there's inspiration, which is a form of intuition, because that's coming from like the infinite field of possibilities. Like we truly don't have original thoughts. Like truly original thoughts come from somewhere, a vibration that's higher than us. And part of intuition too is then discerning. So that's probably why, like, you might see, I'm trying to think of an example, people signing up for health programs because they see something and they get inspired, but then they don't really discern, like, well, is this the right time? Would this eating work for my lifestyle? Certain things like that. So it's both, like, it's the sensation, it's the inspiration, and then it's like also the discernment to bring it into reality.
Yeah. And I guess it's like I often think about to your example about people who sign up for something but almost don't believe that they're able to sort of follow through. And you get that a lot in the field of health and wellness. They're like, it is inspiration that makes someone sign up, but it's this sort of narrative of, decades of unable to meet their goals that's sort of informing them like, well, this is just yet another thing I'm going to sign up for that I'm not going to be able to do. Like, I find that super interesting. They almost they don't believe that they're going to do it, yet they sign up anyway.
Oh, that's pervasive. I mean, even in what I do, I think like the biggest consumers of business programs don't even have their own businesses. It's just, yeah. I think Jill has some statistic on that, but it's like a crazy number. Yeah. And I've done it too. That's why I'm giggling. I'm like not laughing at anyone. Like we've all been there and done that. Spirit, like, so if you're, for those of you listening to this, like, even if you don't believe this, like, we are surrounded by angels, guides, people that have crossed over that are like part of our, I call them like divine guidance team. And the way that we can access like our intuition, which is a higher vibration of the mind, or connect with the infinite field of possibilities, one energy is awe. So when we are in the mind, we are negotiating, we are in the mud with the pig, basically, right? So the mind's going to go back and forth like a ping pong ball. Yes, I can. No, I can't. Yes, I can. No, I can't. And it's just you're stuck at that vibration. So thoughts are the densest, and then emotions are a higher vibration, and then energy or intuition is the highest vibration. So something you can do, like if your community, anyone in your community is having this thing where like, oh, like I signed up for this thing and I don't know if I can do it. Of course, that's what's going to happen. That's predictably what's going to happen because the mind references the past. So if I have a pattern here where I've signed up for something and not done it, that's perfectly predictable that the mind's going to tell you that. How we can break out of that cycle is by just asking the question, what would it feel like if I was able to do this? I'm not saying I can, but I'm just asking a question like, what would it feel like if I was able to do this amazing program with Mikki, or like start walking more regularly, or like whatever the thing is that feels stuck in the mind of like, no, you can't, you can. What would it feel like for this to be easier? Like just inviting in that question of like, not even saying it's going to happen, I'm going to force it to happen, it's definitely going to happen, but just like, what would it be like if this could happen? And you shift out of that vibration that you were just in.
Yeah. And then you're sort of almost opening yourself up to the possibility because you're imagining that sort of future sort of self behavior, I suppose.
Right, exactly. And that's how the brain works. Like if you're visualizing something, the brain takes that as fact. It doesn't understand that that's like something that you're creating in your mind.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
That just reminds me of sports psychology. Like that's exactly how people describe sports psychology. You get elite athletes visualizing themselves winning, and they take through every single sort of nanosecond of that process. That then helps them believe that they can do it. That then propels them to exceeding, where they thought was even possible. Oftentimes.
Oh my gosh, 100%. I mean, I was, I don't do yoga as much now. It's just, I have like a young daughter, so it's a little harder. I'll get back into going to a studio someday, but I used to go religiously like 4 times a week. And I remember the hardest poses that I was like, oh, I can't wait to like be able to do that someday. Like I would like visualize them when I'm driving. And then it would be like, I just go in one day I could do it. It's not because I had just been practicing at home. It was like I'm visualizing it and then boom, it just happens, So that's how our wiring works.
Yeah, I totally appreciate that. And it's almost, I often talk about how, not just me, a lot of people, how evidence builds the confidence that you can do it. And so the evidence isn't necessarily doesn't always have to be a practical evidence. You're sort of suggesting that actually if we can just visualize it happening, regardless of what it is, that's almost building that evidence bank that allows us to take that next step, right?
Yes, exactly. Like it's a repetition, like the nervous system likes repetition. Like we are creatures of comfort. If we talk about energy, it's our root chakra, like likes that repetition. So that's one way to build it. It's not just like muscling your way through it, but also like doing that on the energetic, the mind realm. It completely helps.
So, like a few things that you mentioned earlier, Molly, which I find interesting is, the idea that, children are intuitive, but society sort of almost beats it out of them with our education system and just the social structures. Like, do you have any idea? And it's fine if you don't, but I'm interested to know whether, what do we know what it was like 200 years ago before people went to school? Like when people were just sort of living, I don't know, people didn't go to school 200 years ago, I don't think. It's a relatively new concept, school anyway. Maybe 300 years ago they didn't go. But, like were we much more open to the idea of energetics back in the past that we're just not today?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, before the Industrial Revolution and stuff, I mean, I like remember my grandfather would tell time by looking at the sun. I'm like, like how spectacular is that? Like, and, if you look at animals now who are not on technology and they have like a lot more space in their energy field, they know when you're coming home. Like if you have a dog, like the dog knows that you're coming home or knows that your kid's coming home or a partner or whatever, like they'll be at the door aware that the person's coming home before the car even pulls in the driveway, right? So I'm sure, I would imagine that like back in the day without all the distractions that we have now, that it would have been a way more intuitive society.
I imagine it too. And in fact, as I was asking the question, my mind just flipped right back to what maybe, I'm not very good on timescales. I'll just say 1,000 years ago when witches were burnt at the stake, like where people, all of this, I guess the realm that you're talking about, how it sort of manifests over time, like that's probably a good example of how people did in fact believe in more than just what they see in front of them as we tend to today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think so too.
Molly, do you get a lot of pushback from people who just do not understand this? Or do you not, I suppose, I imagine that you're not, that you've set, everyone's lives are sort of set up to sort of, you're probably surrounding yourself with people who are all appreciate and understand what you're talking about, and your business is designed to work with people who think similarly to you. But do you get pushback?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have like a very 3D life with a lot of, like mom friends and, like they have husbands. And so of course it's always interesting, like, oh, what do you do? And so, I don't go into the full thing with everybody, but yeah, I mean, and there's a thing as ancestral trauma, and that's scientific now. Like our cells carry on from lifetimes, and so some of my clients still have a lot of blocks in their throat chakras, for example, because they were probably burned as witches in the lifetimes before, and so we have some of that. If you were an intuitive person before, but I mean, when I started this 10 years ago, like Reiki was weird. Like nobody knew what that was. And I think it's a lot more mainstream now. So what's cool is that it's definitely becoming more mainstream, but I think that people see it more as like a nice to have. And the work that I do with clients is to help them position their services as like, no, this is a need to have. You can do this as an alternative to other things. Like if you don't, you know, if the doctor thinks not working or, whatever, I'm pro all of it. I think it takes a village, you know what I mean, to stay healthy and happy these days, and like finding the pieces that work for your puzzle, in particular. But I mean, there's definitely some people that look at me funny. I'm like, who cares? You know, like when a mom in the community follows me on Instagram, I'm like, oh, great. Like,
no, I totally appreciate that. And in fact, I often like what I find with people that I work with is it's very easy for them to adopt an eating style or to do exercise in terms of like their logical brain, they get their head around it. They're like, intellectually, I know I need to eat better and exercise more, you know. But the bit that is a struggle for them is it is to do with things like stress management, or it's sleep, or it's something a little less tangible, I guess, which is, you know, which to your point, like something, you know, the ancestral trauma bit that you mentioned. I'd like to unpack that a little bit more if you had any more thoughts on that. But just that there's that a lot of people are stuck by things which they can't quite grasp, or they can't quite figure out, and they're not quite sure why, but they're unable to sort of, I don't know, progress with where they want to be it in their diet and their exercise. And I'm just thinking about the areas that I work in. There's just something keeping them stuck there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why I love, like, I always think, you know, our skin's our biggest organ, but I always say our energy body is. Like, look how big our energy body is. So when we're going about our life, you know, we get things stuck in our energy body. So if someone looks at us and is like projecting negative energy on us, and I don't know if anyone who's listening has seen these studies, but you know, we did this, for example, in one of my yoga trainings, and one of the students went out of the room. And the instructor said, when he gets back in here, I want you to, in your minds, just say all these negative things towards him. And he held his arm out. And when he pushed his arm fell right down. Goes back out. Okay, this time I want you to say all these like positive things. And that's muscle testing. Muscle tests his arm stays up. Our energy bodies feel all that energy. So we get all these like cords and attachments and things, you know, when we're out and about and living. And that stuff and so we have we have multiple energy bodies, but the physical body is just one. And then we have the emotional body. And I forget the statistic, you might know it, but we have something like 60,000 thoughts a day, and then emotions that go with those thoughts. And so it's like literally impossible to process all of that. So we can get energy stuck around our feelings and emotions in that area. And then we have the mental body, which is connected to our thoughts and beliefs. And then we have like, you know, the higher realms. But so as we're out and about, it's easy for things to impact our whole bodies. And that's where I love the work that my clients are doing. And some of the stuff that I used to do when I worked one-on-one is like, if you have a knee injury, there can be energy that needs to be released. And then people all of a sudden, like, the knee injury's gone. I'm not saying that's going to happen every time, but it does happen. And oftentimes, if there's something that's not moving, like you're doing everything in your diet and you're, you know, dealing with a health issue, and then you bring in like the energetic emotional healing too, then everything moves and your body starts trusting you again and it starts performing better, you know? So,
well, that's very much aligned with Anna Hartman, Anna from our business group, Movement Rev, which I've had on the podcast as well. So listeners will be familiar with her work. She's an athletic trainer / physiotherapist / something else, like a whole range of things. And her LTAP stuff specifically sort of investigates, you know, not just the injury, you know, you've got a site of injury, but it is, you know, where is that actually coming from? And it's seldom is it actually coming from the place with which people are feeling the pain.
Yes.
Which is very aligned with what you've just described.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, I have like a Rolodex of healers because that's who I coach. So it's wonderful for me. But over the summer, I was having this shooting pain run from like my lower, like middle kind of neck area up through my head, like ripping through my head. I have never experienced anything like that before or since. And I was like, what is this? I went to the chiropractor and like, that didn't work. So I went to work out with my trainer. I'm like, maybe something's like tight and I, you know, whatever. And she's like, she's like, you're really tight. She knows massage too, like in kind of like right above my armpit area. She's like, you're really tight right there. So then I have a session with my client, Emily, who's incredible. She does organ energetics. And so she's working on me and she's like, it immediately goes away. This shooting pain in my head, it doesn't come back. And she's like, you had this like energy stuck right above your armpit. And I moved it for you. And I was like, she would never have known. There's no way she would have known that the trainer said, like, you're super tight there. Something's going on. And then she's like, you had this like energy there that I had to move for you. It took a while, but it moved. And like the pain literally went away and never came back.
So you were working with Emily virtually?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Super interesting. And do you know, so I have a good friend, Jasmine, who does Reiki actually.
Mm-hmm.
And,
cool.
And I've had a couple of Reiki sessions, by two different, people. One of them was in person and one was Jasmine. And they both, this is related. This just reminded me of this. They both came up with the similar, assessment of my energy and where, what chakra things were stuck in. And if you don't mind giving us like an overview a little bit, maybe, Molly, if you don't mind. And both of them said your throat chakra is, is, I don't know what the term would be, closed or not able to open. I actually can't remember, to be honest, but that sort of stuck with me, like you're not using your voice the way that you should be. Which doesn't mean I don't talk, clearly, because I'm a very good talker, but clearly at those times I wasn't able to, I didn't feel like I could, I don't know, say or feel what I was actually saying or feeling. I don't know. Is that what that would mean?
Yes. Yes, completely. So the throat chakra is obviously like right at our throat, and it's like a turquoise color. And it's a lot of women have throat chakra blocks. I mean, we've only been allowed to vote for like 50 years in the United States or something, like maybe, not that long, right? I mean, it was only, I remember growing up, my aunt, she could only wear skirts to work. She wore pants with it, in trouble. Like we are in a new time now, which is wonderful for us. But like we've been in a system where women were suppressed for a very long time. And that's why so many women have thyroid issues. That's connected to that area too. And so especially for women that are in positions of power, whether it's working for a corporation or running your own business, like it's an invitation to work through those blocks of like really expressing your essence when you're going about doing something. That's hard.
It is hard. And, it's interesting as well, because when I relay to people, I had this session done and this is what, they found or what was said, like people are very, I think dismissive would almost be a kind way to sort of put it actually sometimes. And this was 6, 7, 8 years ago. So this wasn't sort of in the here and now, but so maybe people are a little bit more open to different treatments, I guess. But we're not very open to things that I guess we don't understand, right? And to your point, to what we can see sort of right in front of us, and I think that's probably the pushback that, I don't know, people might experience if they have a session like Reiki or they have some other sort of energetic healing or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. And like, most healers are not great business people. Like I can say from experience, right? Like they're in it for impact and healing. And so they don't want to be a bother. They're very empathic. And so even if they can tell that you need like 5 or 6 sessions, they might just be like, okay, if you need another session, call me. Like they're not always the best about putting together like a business package and selling it to you and being like, this is what we can do together. And this is why you need it. And also, I think because it's hard to describe if you haven't experienced it, it can be hard for practitioners to describe what it is. And so what I've seen is they dive right into the method. Well, like, first, I'll clear your chakra. And I'm like, nobody cares. Like, you don't care. I don't care. I don't care about my chakra. I care that I'm having this ripping pain in my head. You know what I mean? So like, if you're talking about how you can help me with that, then sign me up. But if you're talking immediately about like the method and what's going to happen and like, I don't care, I just don't care. So It's going to become more mainstream. And like everything else, I mean, everyone wears all these gadgets, right? So like monitor everything. It's kind of exhausting in my opinion. And like, it's great for information. And then I think you don't have to wear it forever. It becomes kind of like a burden. But I mean, I remember when I was breastfeeding my daughter, the moms were all on apps. And I'm like, yes, now my right boob is a little bit different sized to my left because I favored one over the other. But like, I didn't want to be on a timer switching my baby based on a timer, right? And so in the fall, I was invited to a wellness center in about like 50 minutes away from where I live. And it was a beautiful center. And the woman there had a bunch of machines flown in from Europe. So they're not mainstream in the United States yet, but they're coming. And everything's frequency. So you can measure frequency. I don't know if you ever heard of the David Hawkins scale of frequency, but like you can literally hook people up to machines and measure frequency. So I was in these treatment rooms getting, quote, energy healings from these machines that were doing the frequency shifting. And I'm like, oh my God, I think it'll become a lot more mainstream. And then that will be a whole thing. Do you want to do a machine or do you want to do a human? And like, to me, like, it's crazy that all these machines are causing so much damage to our nervous system. So then I don't want to be hooked up to a machine doing it. I'd rather be outside where nature is going to do that for me, or like be in the hands of someone who's like reading my live energy, personally. But.
No, I appreciate that. And in fact, just last week I was having a conversation with my friend Matt, and he's an osteopath, and we were just chatting about the injury that I've got right now. And he was talking about the treatment for that is actually getting a vibration. Like, what can be really helpful is getting a vibration at a certain frequency that then hooks up to the muscle, that then allows that muscle to have that sort of vibrational energy at that particular frequency, and that actually helps heal the tissue. This is not different. This is just a smaller version, I think, of what you're describing, Molly.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because it's all vibration and frequency, and that's the stuff that we feel. So even if you go back to, like what we do in a business, it's like you immediately feel if like you're being sold to, no matter what you're buying, right? Or if it feels like it's a good transaction that you're having with someone. And it's really no different. It's just like, okay, this person's using bro marketing, which feels disgusting and is super low vibration, and it's based on forcing and controlling. Oh, and then this person over here is selling from like her heart, and it's very genuine. Like you feel that vibrational difference between those two things. And we, in all areas of our life, we feel that and experience that. And it's the same thing with our bodies and our organs and our aura.
Yeah. And we talked about gut instinct earlier, and, I know people who had severe gut issues for several years, and they would go to a whole heap of like different sort of practitioners, naturopaths, nutritionists to try and get to the bottom of them. And it wasn't until they did something like left the relationship that they were in that their gut issues came right. And in fact, never had gut issues again. But like, it's like the physical manifestation of the sort of the stuck energy, I guess, is often injury or poor health or something else.
Oh, 100%. Like our back, is the biggest structure. And when people have a back issue, I'm like, oh, like they're taking on the weight of the world, right? Like on their back or their shoulders. Depending on which side of the body it is, one side represents past, the other represents future. Like, so there's different ways you can decode if someone's having an issue. And, and interestingly, in this time that we're in, like so many people talk about mitochondria. Mitochondria is feminine. It's a feminine energy, even though it's the powerhouse of the cell. And we inherit mitochondria from our mothers. And so, it's like we're all being invited right now to look at our relationships with work and, forcing and controlling and some of those imbalanced masculine energies that we've been in, to be like, how do we honor this? Because people are having, between EMFs and being on our phones all the time, like our nervous systems are put into fight or flight regularly when we're really only supposed to be put into those situations in like true emergency situations, which is how people used to live, right? And not anymore. Like we're like fight or flight when we check Twitter or whatever.
Yeah.
We're not really designed for that. So even like with gut, if you look at gut, that's like leaky gut is lack of boundaries. Like you can decode so much. The throat chakra you were talking about earlier. There's so many things, but even like anything with hands, arms, that's heart chakra. So, where are you maybe suppressing feelings that you're having or different things like that?
Yeah. And Molly, you mentioned earlier, and also just then, about the difference, but you talked about masculine energy and feminine energy, and right now we're being invited into more feminine energy. Is that the shift? Is it in alignment with coming into Aries? Did you say?
Pluto's moved into Aquarius, so now it's the Aquarius energy. Yeah, and it's not like, 'cause the feminine can be just as toxic as the masculine, and the feminine can be like, "Well, I don't feel like doing it, so I'm not going to." I'm like, "Well, you still gotta, like, at some point, do the thing, like, if you want to have business or whatever." And so it's really like coming into balance between the two and understanding that, like, and that's with athletes, like rest and recovery is as important as training. Right. Nourishing your body is important as the output that it's giving. And so it's like coming into balance between those things and not feeling the guilt around, like, if I need to take a nap or I need to take a day off from doing this training, or, gee, I ate this meal that wasn't like the best, most healthiest meal. Instead of like beating yourself up or like forcing yourself to do this like crazy cleanse after, of just moving back into a more of a balance with it after that. So
Like like the wording of like we're all being invited. Like, is this like? I'm just really curious. Is it just people who work in energy that would know this and understand it and talk about it, or is there a sense that just generally people might feel, but they're not sure of what that is, and in fact, this is what it is? Do you know what I mean? Because like all of these concepts like that we've talked about for like 45 minutes, some people would be thinking, oh my, like what the hell, like on. Like, I don't, this isn't my understanding of the world at all. So I wouldn't know that this is the era that we're moving into, or this is the sort of the energy that I should be experiencing. So how do we reconcile sort of how we understand the world with some of the concepts that we're talking about, I suppose?
I mean, I think you can, like, a lot of it, you can just look at what's going on in the world and understand, like, we're like certain structures in our society are being blown up. Like, if we won't get into politics here, but I mean, my God, look at what's happening in this country. Like, the last time we were astrologically in the same configuration was the Civil War. And that's the astrological configuration we're in right now. Things aren't working. Structures are being broken down. I think healthcare will be a next big one that's going to be broken down. And so we're like being invited now, instead of following the rules, to make our own rules, which is great for like people that you work with. Like, how do I intuitively work with my body to eat and take care of it, and, work out in a way that works for me, even if it might not work for the person next to me, being empowered to do that. So some of it is intuitively understanding it. So if you see these things happening, like a lot of the really unfortunate things that are happening in our world right now are because we structurally need an upgrade. Like Mother Earth's pissed, about, like, the way that she's been treated. So there are some things that need to change in how we function as a society. And in the end, a lot of it's for the greater good, even though it's really painful to go through it in the process of it. And so I think when you take a step back, like, why is some of this stuff happening? Because sometimes it has to get worse before it gets better. And the way that things, have been functioning haven't been working for anyone. Insurance is like, for example, that's about sickness, not wellness. There's a lot that needs to change, and those are the upgrades that we're going through.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I completely understand what you're saying about that. Like, I mean, the world feels, it's sort of like COVID. Like, it felt like the world was collapsing through that time, and actually it doesn't feel like it's really got back on its feet. It's almost like there are just these other things which are even more horrific appear to be, for a small percentage of our population, whereas we're here in New Zealand sort of observing it there, but it's not like things are great here either. But it's like this huge collapse. Like, I wonder how much of that was not foreseen, but people who understand energy or understand I guess, frameworks that we're talking about might have sort of forecasted stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Molly, like you work with healers in your, like, to your point, like just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you're going to be a great business person, to be able to sort of put yourself out there. Like, who are the people that you work with?
I work with, well, some of them are coaches. I say that I work with people who are doing new, woo, and unknown. So some people are healthcare practitioners, but they're bringing in kind of new modalities like muscle testing medicine or things like that, where it's the goal is the same as maybe a traditional practitioner, but the method is different. And being able to talk about that is, has to be done in a different way because, again, people don't care about the method until they understand what it has to do with them. Then I work with healers. So that's, psychics, energy healers, that whole realm. And then intuitives, those are the people. And so they're all bringing in new frequencies to this world of different ways that people can create alignment in their lives and in their bodies. And I think a lot of what they're doing is very complementary to traditional stuff that still exists. And it's not an either or, it can be a both in a lot of situations. But if you have something that's happening and you're doing what the doctor's telling you, you're doing what the physical therapist is telling you, and things aren't moving, there are other modalities out there right now that will help you. Like there's definitely at that point an energetic or emotional block that's happening.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess a lot of what we're talking about isn't in alignment with Western medicine or our understanding, but what cultures is it like pretty well accepted? Like, are there cultures in the world where the things that we're talking about, it's just part and parcel of how people heal or how people move through life?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I always laugh because I'm like, we're so advanced, we're kind of stupid in a way. Like when I was going through IVF to try to get pregnant, decided at the perfect wrong age that I was ready for a baby at 40, which is the exact wrong time according to biology. And I started working with both an IVF Western doctor and then a Chinese medicine doctor, and I was like, they were saying the same thing, but she was saying it by looking in my eyes and looking at my tongue. And he's doing all this fancy testing, And so I'm like, this stuff has actually been around for forever. And I think certain, Eastern cultures are probably more open to it. But I'm from Boston, and even my girls back there, they get energy healings and stuff now. So I think it's becoming a lot more mainstream and understood. I think not the challenge with that, but there's just so much more variety with it. Now Reiki's whatever, most people know what that is. And Reiki's kind of just a gateway where then your own healing modality comes through after. And so understanding what someone does and if it's the right fit for you, I think that'll be where we're at right now, or where we're heading to, of how can this help me, and what questions do I ask to understand if this is a right fit.
Yeah. And then I guess from your experience and perspective, and from the people that you work with, what if someone is listening to this and they're like, oh shit, I think what I'm experiencing is in fact that I've got this capacity to help others in this area, but I don't even understand it myself. You mentioned that you had mentors. What was your sort of learning journey, Molly, with how you sort of got from this place of, of understanding energy to actually being able to work in it to then be able to help others? Because I imagine there'll be people out there who just, it's not an accepted thing that they talk about, and they don't really quite understand it. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, so many women are empathic, which is we're taking on other people's experiences and emotions and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of great books out there. There's a lot of great teachers. Anyone can reach out to me too. I'm happy to share resources. And then, belonging to communities that are grounded in this. And I think that can be a little bit of a struggle to find, because sometimes in these woo communities, it's just, there's not a lot of groundedness, and it can be a lot of people aren't channeling authentic sources and stuff like that. And so my Reiki teacher originally helped me a lot. And then it's much like being at the gym though. It's just doing the reps, I did Reiki on myself. My teacher had me do this. I had to do Reiki on myself every day for like 6 months so I could understand myself, what the energy was and how it felt, and like my own, it's like if you're becoming a coach, you need to understand your blind spots and stuff. So I had to do it on myself for I think like 6 months to really understand it. And then I started doing sessions on other people. And then it's called your psychic library comes through. So like if I knew, this is sad, but like I knew if I saw a knife, like when I'm doing healing on someone, I knew that meant that someone was a victim of domestic abuse. And so you start like building that skill set out. And then because I had the business background though, I missed like kind of using my brain too. So for me, it was like a great fit after I built out my healing business to be able to leave corporate eventually. Reading energy in businesses is what I love doing now. And then helping those practitioners build out their own businesses. But I think, if you're one of the biggest things that for women who are listening, who feel empathic, like you pick up on the energy all over the place, is I used to just put my hand on my solar plexus, which is your upper stomach. And I just ask myself, is what I'm feeling mine or someone else's? And like that alone would alleviate like 50% of like the energetic charge that I was feeling. And I could still have compassion and follow up and like, support someone. But like, there's a difference between doing that and like taking it all in your own system.
Yeah. Yeah. Super interesting. And, I think we've all grown up reading in the paper, like astrology signs, like what's my star sign? And I'll just read this just for, for fun. But there's a real alignment with astrology and health and well-being, right?
For sure. And actually, that's why I do like human design, because in the splenic center, there is there's I think like 7 gates, or they're little centers, they're like little dots, and it's the one way over on the left. And those are all the intuitive gates. So you can look at that and see like which ones you consistently have access to. Like we're all, intuitive, like I said, but which ones might be the ones that you are most intuitive with. Like, for example, the sense of smell is an intuition. Like I can smell stuff from a mile away. It's like almost annoying, but that also means like you can smell a rat. You know what I mean? Like you can smell it out. So that's a good way. Like if you're newer to this and you want to look at your chart, look at your splenic center, and any of those gates. You can just Google this stuff. Like any of those gates that are circled mean you have consistent access to that, and that's one of your intuitive gifts.
So human design you mentioned, and I've come across this only maybe in the last 6 months, because of course I know nothing about this stuff. But it seems to have come up time and again. So this is a framework of understanding intuition that people can use? Is that a, like, how would you what is even human design?
That's like bizarre to describe. I don't know. Like even when I describe it, I'm like, that doesn't even make sense, but it works. So it's rooted in your chakras and then astrology, and it is dependent on your time of birth. And do you remember earlier when I said I just decided in 2019, like I'm listening to that sensation in my gut that a lot of times disagrees with my mind. So that function that I was going through, human design later put words to that. So in human design, that's called a sacral response. And so people who have a sacral response, they know yes, no, pretty much immediately. And sometimes I'll say like the sacral beat hasn't dropped yet. I just don't know. And it will drive people in my world crazy because I'm like, I just don't have the yes or no yet. But a lot of people have that sacral authority. And that just means like, you should always live your life listening to that. And life's going to be a lot easier. You say yes to the yeses and no's to the no's. So I used to do behavioral assessments in corporate that no longer felt really relevant in this world that I operate in now. And so I really kind of fell in love with the human design chart, because I think when you can just present something in black and white to somebody, the mind is more able to easily receive what you're saying than just me being like, hey, Mikki, you're an empath. How about that, girl?
Yeah, totally. No, that makes perfect sense because, to your point of right at the start of our conversation, you said that we were moving from the era of the mind to the era of energy. But actually, I think most of us will still be stuck in give me the data, give me the numbers, give me a framework with how I understand it. It's like frameworks like human design, as I understand it, because I went in and did my little numbers thing. It sort of almost anchors some of the things which I might feel or I might experience, and it gives almost a name and a way of understanding it. And that's what our mind likes, I think.
Yeah, and that's the balance that we were talking about. It's like not just about being in the feminine feeling energy. Like it's totally fine and great to use that balance of the masculine and feminine, and like the mind is that masculine energy that wants the evidence, and then the feminine is the energy, the emotions that like we're more intuitively experiencing.
Yeah, like this will sound a bit weird, but like, does someone like me have to do something like yoga to fully like grasp and get into these sort of concepts? Like there's a certain archetype that I imagine who is fully in this energetic world, and it's like a yogi who is plant-based, who doesn't drink, who stays up with the moon, and like you have these like, I guess, preconceived notions of people who understand and get energy and people who don't want a bar of it.
No, I mean, I understand like there's the stereotypes around that, like, but I eat red meat pretty much every day. I swear like a sailor. I'm from the East Coast. I love champagne. I love tequila. I love espresso martinis as long as they're decaf. Like I think those old stereotypes are like, they are what they are. Obviously, as I age, like I can't do all of that quite so much. But like, I'm like, I don't know why me, because like I don't fit the definition of it,
Yeah. Yeah. I love that actually. I think that there is when I met you, and we had, and just obviously on Zoom a few times, and then particularly last meeting, I think it was the first time maybe we even had like a lengthy conversation. And I'm like, oh, Molly's pretty straight up and pretty normal. Like, and I don't mean that normal versus, but you certainly didn't fit the stereotype of what a woo energy healer / business person would have been had I just sort of read about you on paper.
No, it's so funny you say that, because my clients, like back in the day when I would meet them in person, were just like disappointed because I would have on like little blazers and like boots, because I was like still used to corporate, right? And I think they're expecting this like white flowy dress and like this like headband. Like I was like, oh, sorry, no, I'm from Boston. Like I'm a career chick. Like I can also read you, but like, I don't fit the stereotype.
Oh, it's quite funny. So Molly, like obviously you work with people in the energy realm. Like if people do want to work with you, like are you taking on clients? Like what's the process?
I think something that is more like applicable to a larger group of people is I have something called the Alchemy Lab, and that there's a call every week we do for that. And the majority of people in that have a business or are considering doing their own business. But we work a lot on regulating the nervous system to be able to express yourself and to be able to put yourself out into the world. And what's funny is I did a private podcast for that. It's called Exponential Energetics. So I can share that link with you, because I had so many people reach out to me and say like, I don't even have my own business, and this was so helpful. I cover like the 4 phases of a spiritual business, but you can apply that to corporate. You can apply that to your health journey. You can really apply it to any sort of thing that you're doing. So I can certainly give that link to your community, because I think people could benefit from that even if they don't have their own business. And you can just kind of take some of the examples that I give and apply it to your own situation for sure. And then if anyone is like, oh my God, I need a woo person to do this, that, or the other thing, please feel free to reach out, because I have a Rolodex and I can refer some really amazing people to you.
I love that, Molly. Thank you. Because I agree with you. Like I personally listen to a lot of different voices in a whole lot of different areas, and like that I'm not at all involved in. And they're just so applicable. Like so much of this information is transferable to areas in your life where you're struggling with. And to your point, I think right now people probably need all the help that they can get.
I know I do.
I agree. Molly, can you just let people know where they can find you? And I will put all the links in the show notes.
Sure. My Instagram is probably the easiest, and it's Molly, Molly, Hamill, Hamill. And then you can, on any post in there, if you just type 777, you'll get the link to get the Exponential Energetics podcast. Gonna do some angel numbers there.
That is angel numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. Molly, thanks so much for your time. I really enjoyed chatting.
Thank you so much. I love chatting with you too, Mikki.
Alrighty, hopefully you enjoyed that. I find the whole area so fascinating, and as I said to Molly, it really takes knowing someone well, at least for me, to actually dig a little deeper into the idea of sort of beyond what we see and hear in everyday life. So I was very excited to chat to Molly, and I really hope that you enjoyed that conversation. Next week on the podcast, I speak to celebrity trainer Ashley Borden. Another awesome conversation. Loved chatting to Ashley. So you'll get to hear that next week. Just I'd like to remind you though that my accelerated program, the 21-day short, sharp focus container where I teach my protein sparing modified fast method to you, is open now until Sunday. And we kick off Monday, 9th of February. So if you're interested, if you've been on the fence, if you've been unable to commit to the full 8-week program, this is for you. Head on over. We've got links in the show notes as to how you can sign up to Monday's Matter Accelerated. All right, team, you have the best week, and see you soon.